girls of grade 5, and welcome to another NGSA past paper English language review. Today, our focus will be on antonyms. Yes, those words that are opposite in meaning to each other. We will be looking at a series of past papers from various years where we will be able to examine question structure and possible answers. So let's take a look at the first year where antonyms would have appeared on the papers. 2016. In this year, the instruction had read, in questions 6 and 7, choose the word that is opposite in meaning to the word underlined in each sentence. The first question read, the watch Torres bought was expensive. The word underlined was expensive. Remember, we are looking for an opposite word. And so, let's take a look at those options. We have A, unattractive, B, cheap, C, inferior, or D, costly. Boys and girls, the word expensive would mean costly or dear. So the opposite of that would definitely be B, cheap. Let's move on. The bridge looked sturdy for the truck to cross. Word underlined, sturdy. Our options: A, strong, B, rocky, C, secure, or D, frail. Sturdy usually refers to something that is secure or firm. And so the opposite of that would be D, frail. Sometimes the opposite of sturdy may even be weak. 2011. The instruction read, in questions 13 and 14, choose the word that is opposite in meaning to the word underlined. Number 13. The class teacher praised the pupils of grade 6. The underlined word is praised. We again are looking for an antonym. The options: A, blamed, B, thanked, C, honored, or D, blessed. Boys and girls, what would be the opposite of praised? Yes, I'm sure you would have chosen A, blamed. Let's move on to number 14. All the materials on the shelf are transparent. Transparent is our underlined word. We're looking for an opposite of transparent. Our options: A, clear, B, fragile, C, opaque, or D, bright. We know for sure that A, clear, is the synonym of transparent. However, the opposite can be found at C, opaque. So let's move on. 2009. In questions 4 and 5, choose the word that is opposite in meaning to the word underlined in each sentence. Number 4 read, the obstinate pupil refused to apologize to the teacher. The word underlined is obstinate. If you're obstinate, then you're disobedient or insolent. Let's look at the options for an opposite. A, adamant, B, eager, C, obedient, or D, lazy. opposite of obstinate would definitely be C, obedient. Number 5. Citizens were asked to conserve water. I'm sure you would have learned about conservation in your science lessons. So I hope you remember what this word means. But here we're looking for an opposite. Options: A, waste, B, protect, C, maintain, or D, disperse. Boys and girls, I'm sure you're thinking that the opposite of conserve would be A, waste. So boys and girls, let's take a look at the questions that appeared on antonyms in the year 2009. The instruction: in questions 9 and 10, choose the word that is opposite in meaning to the word underlined. The first sentence read, standing still was difficult because he was intoxicated. What then would be the opposite of intoxicated? Options: A, sober, B, drunk, C, ill, or D, weary. Boys and girls, the word intoxicated refers to someone who is drunk. The opposite of intoxicated would definitely be A, sober. Number 10. There is a large decrease in the number of persons traveling by taxi. Our options are A, drop, B, increase, C, reduction, or D, flow. From those options, we are choosing a suitable opposite for decrease. Yes, the opposite of decrease would be B, increase. Let's take a look at the year 2008. Here, the instruction read, in questions 5 to 8, choose the word that is not a synonym of the underlined word. Boys and girls, from the instruction, you're seeing that you are being asked for a word that is not a synonym. Therefore, you are being asked for the antonym of the word underlined. Number 5, the word underlined was rowdy. Again, we are not looking for the synonym, but for the opposite in meaning or the antonym. So what then would be the opposite of rowdy? Would it be A, wild, B, quiet, C, unruly, or D, noisy? Definitely, the opposite of rowdy, or the word that is not a synonym of rowdy, would be B, quiet. Let's move on to number 6. Our word is conclude. Options: A, close, B, end, C, commence, or D, stop. Yes, the word that is not a synonym of conclude would definitely be C, commence. 7, breach. Opposite, let's look for it. A, crack, B, split, C, opening, or D, seal. Have you ever heard the term being used, where something has a breach? Well, it's usually referring to a crack or opening in something. So, boys and girls, the opposite of breach would be de-seal. Number 8, assemble. We are again looking for the word that is not a synonym of assemble. Our options are A, disperse, B, collect, C, gather, or D, rally. Definitely, the opposite of assemble would be A, disperse. Let's take a look at 2007. In questions 7 and 8, select the word which is opposite of the word in capitals. At number 7, the word in capitals is omitted. Let's look for the opposite. A, ignored, B, included, C, committed, or D, dropped. Boys and girls, if you omit something, then you leave it out, or it would have been left out or ignored. So, the opposite of omitted would definitely be included. Sometimes the opposite can also be insert. Number 8, the word is compulsory. Let's look for its opposite. A, fixed, B, standard, C, optional, or D, essential. Well, I'm sure that you're usually familiar with the opposite of compulsory being voluntary. However, another possible answer could be C, optional. So if something is not compulsory, then it's C, optional or voluntary. Let's look at 2006. In questions 18 and 19, choose the word or phrase that is the antonym for the word underlined. At number 18, the sentence read, "The captain deserted the ship when it began to sink." The word underlined is deserted. Our options: A, abandoned, B, jumped from, C, left, or D, remained on. Remember, boys and girls, we are not choosing a synonym, which would be abandon. We are looking for the opposite. The opposite of deserted would be D, remained on. Number 19. The athlete was exhausted at the end of the race. Word underlined, exhausted. Options: A, energized, B, fatigued, C, tired, or D, bored. If one is not exhausted, then the opposite would definitely be A, energized. 2005. Again, at questions 18 and 19, choose the word that is opposite in meaning to the word underlined. Number 18. The teacher accepted Sean's apology for being late for the mathematics class. Word underlined, accepted. The options are A, received, B, rejected, C, took, or D, discussed. The opposite of accepted would be B, rejected. That means that Sean's apology was not accepted by his teacher. Number 19. The shadow vanished from the screen when the lights came on. We're looking for the word opposite in meaning to vanished. A, departed. B, approached. C, moved. Or D, appeared. Definitely, boys and girls, the opposite of vanished would be D, appeared. Let's look at 2004. In questions 21 and 22, choose the word that is the antonym of the word underlined. 21. Smoking in minibuses is prohibited. Prohibited being the underlined word. Or options: A, forbidden. B, permitted. C, disallowed. Or D, condemned. Boys and girls, definitely A, C, and D are synonyms of prohibited. So the antonym of prohibited would be B, permitted. Sometimes another antonym would be allowed. Number 22. The main performer was a popular singer. The word underlined, popular. The options for an antonym: A, well known. B, familiar. C, little known. Or D, noted. If you're not popular, then the best option for an antonym here would be C, little known. And in 2001, there were also questions on antonyms. Let's look at the instructions. In questions 27 to 30, select the word which is not similar in meaning to the word written in capital letters at the beginning of each question. Again, boys and girls, not similar in meaning. That means we're looking for the opposite or an antonym. 27. The word is error. What would be the opposite of error? A, accuracy. B, blunder. C, mistake. Or D, oversight. If you make an error, then you might have made a mistake. But the opposite of that would be A, accuracy. Number 28, delete. Options: A, cancel. B, erase. C, insert. Or D, exclude. The opposite of delete, boys and girls, would be C, insert. Number 29, the word was strenuous. Our options for an antonym are A, exhausting. B, refreshing. C, tiring. Or D, fatiguing. The opposite of strenuous would be B, refreshing. And 30, the word is angry. Our options are A, annoyed. B, displeased. C, outraged. Or D, satisfied. Alternately, if you're angry, you would be annoyed or outraged or even displeased. So if we eliminate those answers, we sure will be left with D, satisfied, as the word that is not similar in meaning to angry. So boys and girls, before we go, let's look at the study tip for today. When answering multiple choice questions, we must read every answer option. In the first tip that I had given you, I said to read every question. But here, you are being told to read every answer option. Why is that important? Let me tell you. Read every answer option prior to choosing a final answer. This may seem like a no-brainer to some, but it is a common mistake students make. As we pointed out in previous tips, there is usually a best answer to every multiple choice question. If you quickly assume you know the correct answer without first reading every answer option, you may end up not selecting the best answer. So boys and girls, be sure to read every answer option. So boys and girls, I hope you were able to again note question structure and possible answers for examination questions on antonyms. Be sure to rewatch the videos on this topic so that you can bring clarity to the concept. Please continue to be diligent and work feverishly to apply good study habits and patterns. Remember, as I have told you previously, what William Arthur Ward said: study while others are sleeping, work while others are loafing, prepare while others are playing, and dream while others are wishing. I'm your English teacher saying goodbye for now until our next English language past paper review.